Thanks very much indeed, Tomasz. That was very, very interesting. And I can say that the long version of that speech will be published in the next issue of the Transform Journal. So we look forward to reading that. Our next speaker is Myriam Kane. Myriam is a very powerful anti-racist activist. She's also a member of the National Executive Committee of the National Union of Students. Please welcome Myriam Kane.
This conference is happening at the critical time in history. I am always honored to hear from Walt Wolfgang and those firsthand who can tell us of the horror of the of the Holocaust. But I'm shocked that there are less and less witnesses alive to tell us firsthand of the Holocaust. We are witnessing the rise of the far right, fascism, and the KKK like never before. If you allow fascism to grow, their end game is the annihilation of all of us in this room and millions like us. How have we got here? Fascism has been given oxygen by the creeping climate of racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism that the government of Europe and the right-wing media must bear responsibility for. As the economic crisis continues, those who are not responsible for the austerity from the top are being blamed for it. The hatred of Donald Trump, the most powerful man in the world, has emboldened the KKK, and he retweeted Britain first, which were the words shouted out by the man who murdered the MP, Joe Cox. I am ashamed that Theresa May hold his hand. I am ashamed that Boris Johnson congratulated Viktor Orban on his victory in Hungary. And I am ashamed that the Tory MEP didn't vote to censure Orban. Where is the media outcry about the anti-Semitism on the right wing of politics? I am ashamed that this very week a Jewish elderly man was beaten until there was blood in his mouth by the skinhead in broad daylight in London. He could have died in that attack. This is the disgusting scourge of anti-Semitism on full display. Where are the headlines about this in the paper this week? Why didn't the shooting of the synagogue in the US last year hit the first item on the news either? What I can say is that even when the media don't stand with the Jewish community, our communities do. I am proud that the Muslim community fundraised to support that synagogue. We will stand together and say, they shall not pass. As a Muslim African woman, I am disgusted at the rise in hate crime since Brexit. It is scary time to be Muslim, African, Arab, Asian, Caribbean, migrant, Jewish, LGBT+, Roma or disabled. The far right can and must be stopped. This means celebrating diversity and engaging the minority. But politicians and the media are instead rubbishing it. And the latest form of racism against Muslims, refugees, migrants, embolden those who promote the hatred that we thought were banished from the mainstream like anti-Semitism. We only need to look at the banning of the veil, which has demonized Muslim sisters. Following this, the skull cap, turban, nose ring, and the small cross-face ban in European countries. Let's never forget that an injury to one is an injury to all. None of the communities I have named so far in this speech, we are responsible for the economic crash. I say blame the bankers, not the burqa. I would remind the champions of bigotry, Bolsonaro, Trump, and Nigel Farage, that they are not indigenous to the countries they were born in. Their ancestors got off of the boat too. And the top 1% organize themselves internationally and know it's successful, which is why they want to keep the bottom 99% divided with racism. So when such a politician start blame the foreigner as say, we are one society, many cultures, and we are here to stay. In Britain, groups like Stand Up to Racism, Unite Against Fascism, and their predecessor have been central to the anti-fascist campaign. They have prevented electoral breakthrough the fascism and defeated the violent street movement. That is because when the fascists come for a mosque, we all protect the mosque. The same goes for a synagogue, a temple, an LGBT plus club, a trade union, or progressive bookshop. United we stand, divided we fall. I am a member of the NUS-NEC, the National Union of Students. Was set up after World War II to stop another world war ever happening again. It is our duty to stop fascism. Our campuses must be safe spaces against fascism. History shows us that the Nazis recruited young people at universities. The Nazi youth leagues attacked Jewish students and burned books. We must oppose groups like Generation Identity who are flyering campuses with hateful leaflets against migrant and Muslim, targeting niqab-wearing sisters. It is so important for students across Europe to network together. I am proud that there are youth groups from Europe here today. As far as I am concerned, the very existence of civilization is threatened by two things: climate change and fascism. I am proud that the youth of the world has risen to tackle climate change. Now let's rise up to put fascism into the dustbin of history once and for all. Please be part of the global UN Anti-Racism Day process on the 16th of March in London and cities across Europe and the world. I want to tell you how proud I was to see Jeremy Corbyn elected as leader of the Labour Party, making Diane Abbott Shadow Home Secretary. Diane and the other first black MP got elected because our community self-organized with the progressive movement to strengthen our voices in Parliament. I am clear on the difference between a Tory government and a Labour government. With Jeremy and Diane, the Tories deport Windrush citizens, some fall to their death. Labour get the Home Secretary responsible for the Windrush scandal sacked. Let's be clear. We can only call ourselves a civilized society once bigotry has been eradicated. Let's ensure we don't stop until there is no racism, no Islamophobia, no anti-Semitism, no fascism, no Pasaran. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Is Esther Lynch around? Okay. So I think we're all aware how important the trade union movement is, the organised working classes, in opposing fascism. It's a great honour to welcome the Confederal Secretary of the European Trade Union Confederation, Esther Lynch.